Well, Dan Quinn, I think now would be an amazing time to pay the Cowboys fans that favor you owe us from taking all of our damn players last offseason. Yeah, we got a big fish on the market, and Steven, this would be the perfect time to be selectively aggressive, my brother. The perfect time. Let's get right into this as we have a real difference maker who is exactly what the Cowboys need on the market, and who knows, he could end up in Dallas, especially with some pre-existing relationships there. We just have to hope that Dan Quinn's beef was more so with a Mike McCarthy than it was with the Jones family, and he's willing to play ball with the Cowboys. Let's take a look at the latest news that could honestly be interesting as far as Cowboys fans concerned. Washington Commanders defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, who has 1 year remaining on his deal, was informed by the franchise that he has permission to seek a trade. Now, this is going to get interesting, and the reason that this is going to get interesting is simply because of the fact of his age. His age is what's going to prevent this from being a trade that is super lucrative, prevent this from being a trade that costs you a first or a second or a third round pick. I think you could possibly pull off this type of trade with the Jonathan Allen, probably for a fifth rounder, maybe a fourth round pick. I know the Cowboys unfortunately don't have a fourth round pick due to the Jonathan Mingo trade, but I think that you could get something like this done, especially with an aging guy, a guy who only played 50% of his snaps last season, which was the lowest rate in his entire career. 57.9% was the percentage of the snaps that he played for the Washington Commanders for the games he was active in. And even though he played that smaller amount of snaps, he still was a productive inside defensive lineman. In fact, had he been on the Cowboys, he would have still statistically been one of the most productive inside defensive linemen. He had 3 sacks last season on only 14 pressures, which is actually a very impressive sack to pressure conversion ratio. However, he only had 19 tackles and about 14 stops. Now, what is interesting is he only started 7 games for the Washington Commanders last season. So that was in a limited amount of playing time as far as Jonathan Allen goes. Now, last season, Jonathan Allen did injure his left pectoral muscle. He tore a left pec, and he also injured his knee in the season before that. So that pec did cause him to miss some time last season. Now, what that means is it's going to lower his value. Washington cannot expect premium value for a guy like this, especially when he's going to hit someone's cap for $22 million. So Washington's probably going to either have to eat some of that salary cap hit if they want to trade him, or they're going to have to outright release him or something if they really want to get up off of his contract. But either way, what's going to happen is he has 1 year remaining on his deal, and whoever he signs with next, man, he's not going to be expecting the same type of contract he already had before. He topped out at $18 million per season on his last contract, his prime contract. So you can bet that he's going to be a cheaper player on his next deal, probably come down to that $12 to $13 million range. And I think for someone like a Jonathan Allen, it could very well be worth it, especially if he comes back healthier than he was. He's a guy that can play some 1 tech, some 3 tech. He plays a little bit of 2 tech as well. I've even seen him lined up at the 0 tech as well. So he essentially plays all those inside D lineman techniques, and he honestly can play them pretty proficiently. We actually jumped into the film room for this one because I want to make sure that we're getting eyes on some of these guys that we're talking about bringing into Dallas. Now, the film that we're going to take a look at are going to be some of the clips from the Washington Commanders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game from last season. The reason I chose this game is because obviously the Buccaneers have a very good run game with a good passing attack last season as well. So it's a very good offense to get a kind of a sample size and see what he was doing against competent competition, right? So let's go ahead and jump into the film room real quick. All right, so this right here is a play that I really like personally. To me, it still shows that Jonathan Allen can do exactly what you need a run-stopping defensive lineman to be able to do, regardless of the situation. And this is one of the more difficult runs for a defensive lineman to actually be able to stop because it really challenges your gap integrity. Now, we're going to go ahead and see this stretch play by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And remember, the Bucs were one of the better rushing teams in the league, so this is another reason why I like this clip right here, because it shows Jonathan Allen against better competition, right? So if we take a look at this, we're going to let the play run a little bit. You'll see Jonathan Allen is initially lined up in a 2 technique position. Now, the 2 technique essentially is just letting you know that he's lined up directly over the guard right here. So he's helmet to helmet
with the guard when the play is about to start. So go ahead, let the play run a little bit. And what you're going to see is Jonathan Allen's going to do a great job. Now you can see the play's kind of developing. The whole line is shifting towards the left side of the field. You can see the left tackle come in and kind of trap this DN right here. So this is kind of letting you know this is going to be a stretch play. Now watch what Jonathan Allen does right here. The play goes, and he's going to play this absolutely perfectly. He's going to continue to string this run along until he gets some help. And this is what you're supposed to do, man. You're not supposed to shoot the gap if you're playing inside D-line and try to get this guy back here, because if you miss, he has a lane for a big run, and he's going to get to that second level of your defense, maybe even the third level, depending on if these guys can get off the blocks down here, and if Luhu will be able to get past the Mike Evans, which is right there, right? If we get rid of all of that, you'll see Jonathan Allen do exactly what he's supposed to do, which he's going to stretch this run out, and it's going to make the running back have to make a decision right here, because Jonathan Allen is going to meet him at the point of contact, and now the running back either has to try to bounce this back in, or he's going to try to bounce out. And regardless, what you've done now, because you've given yourself a little bit of time, what you've done now is you've given time for your teammates to come and help. You've given time for the troops to rally, right? So we're going to let the play run. And you see Jonathan Allen, boom, he met him, and he made him have to cut back, and he ran right back into the backside help. So that's exactly what you want your defensive lineman to do in that situation. And you'll see Jonathan Allen, he has something to say at the end of this play, because he knows he did exactly what he's supposed to do as it pertains to doing his job, especially playing that two technique right there, and essentially being responsible for that gap depending on which side the play goes to. But that was one of the plays I really like from a Jonathan Allen, because it showed that he still has the mobility needed to even cover plays that's going sideline to sideline, and he's not just a gap plugger. He's not just a run stopper in the sense of he's just going to hold a gap right there and not let a guy come through. He can still stretch that play out. Now this next play, I really like this next play, because it shows that Jonathan Allen still has a little bit of flexibility to his game, right? So we already seen them lined up in that two technique, and essentially was responsible for filling the gap, maintaining his gap integrity, and being able to stuff a run by stretching it out towards the sideline and making the running back have to make a decision. And he jumped back to his backside help. On this play, we're going to see Jonathan Allen playing more of a three technique, and he's going to be responsible for getting upfield and putting pressure on the quarterback. Now, even though Baker Mayfield completes the pass on this one, I want you to pay attention to how Jonathan Allen was the first guy at the quarterback and how this play kind of plays out a little bit, right? So we're going to see a stunt action here on the line of scrimmage, and Dan Quinn is running kind of an interesting look here, because what you see essentially is you're going to see your three tech, which is Jonathan Allen right here. You're going to see your three tech on this side of the ball. We're going to go ahead and circle so you see where he is. There's your three tech right here. You're going to see Bobby Wagner. He's playing that A-gap mug, and essentially both of these guys are going to stunt to the left when the play starts, and then you're going to see number 94 right here. He's going to stunt to the right behind both of those guys. Now, what's going to happen is Jonathan Allen is going to keep his hips upfield, pointed towards the quarterback, and that way that's going to allow him to essentially get back on the straightest line possible to the quarterback. And look how quick he gets to Baker Mayfield. In fact, if Baker didn't get rid of the ball when he did, he would have got smashed. Check this out. So we see the play is about to start right here, and you see the ball is going to be snapped. Boom. And then you see the stunt happen right there, right? So you see Jonathan Allen and Bobby Wagner both stunt to the left, and you see number 94 stunt to the right. Now what we're going to see from here is look who's the first person to squeeze through, and look how quickly he squeezed through this gap right here. He got incredibly skinny right here. Boom. Hips, hips, hips. Take a look at the hips where Bobby Wagner and Jonathan Allen are, right? So Jonathan Allen is right here. He is essentially already penetrated this A-gap right here. He got extremely skinny. He has his hips kind of pointed towards upfield, and that's going to allow him to get extremely skinny while maintaining his momentum. And as the play plays out a little bit, you're going to see him immediately get to Baker. I mean, it was a straight line path. You couldn't have done a better pass rush than what Jonathan Allen did there, as far as just technique-wise and getting exactly where he's supposed to be mechanically and allowing his body to do the rest of the work for him. All he had to do at that point was keep his balance, and he was right on top of Baker Mayfield. If Baker would have held onto the ball even a click longer, he would have been lunch meat straight up. So this was a completion, but it still showed that Jonathan Allen is going to be a threat on that field, man. And had there been a little bit better backside coverage by the DBs, who knows how that play would have turned out, because you see the receiver had to kind of make a play on that ball. Even though he was wide open, he still had to kind of make a play a little bit, extend himself a little bit, because the pressure was there. So that's really the type of thing you're looking at. You got to see the receiver had to actually kind of jump up, and extend to catch that ball. And that's because Baker didn't have a chance to just kind of toss it in there and allow him to make a pass that was going to let that receiver stay on his feet. So Jonathan Allen making an impact even when it doesn't show up on the stat line. Really like what he still has left in the tank, man. I wouldn't be against the Cowboys bringing him in at all. Now, with all of that being said, Jonathan Allen could be an affordable piece for the Cowboys. He could be the perfect piece for the Cowboys to be selectively aggressive. And after Dan Quinn pretty much robbed all of our coffers, of our players, our coaches, everything last season, you would think that he would want to give the Cowboys a little something back so that way he could buy some good. You know what, Dan Quinn, if you give us Jonathan Allen for the low, we'll let it go. We'll let the sins of the past go. Dan Quinn, we had a good time while you were here. It just ended a little bit shaky. If you could give us Jonathan Allen for the low, I will let it go. I promise you, bro. I would love to have a Jonathan Allen on this team. I think he would be the perfect complement on that defensive line. And you could possibly be looking at a defensive line that's kind of fixed for the most part. If you add a Jonathan Allen to that defensive line room, you have Micah Parsons on one side, Marshawn Nealon on one side, Chauncey Golston in that room, Osa Odigizua, bring him back still bring Osa back so you can have those two guys on either side. And I think that would go a long ways toward helping the Cowboys be a better run defending team, right? So Jonathan Allen, Dan Quinn, please send us Jonathan Allen for the low. Please let him go. And how about them Cowboys?
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Hey! I'm still them boys.